Again, Cody, we are coming into a week where the Texas Longhorns are on bye, so we're reflecting on the first 1/3 of the regular season so far. And um, man, if we look at it, I can't believe it, but it's time to start kind of taking some accounting of where the Longhorns are right now and what things are looking like as far as making another run to CFP appearance here. There's obviously some things that will need to happen. We'll talk about tomorrow on a Final Takes Friday. Uh, this weekend, I think some key games and some teams the Texas fans should probably be rooting for. But as far as from the Texas side, based on what we've seen thus far, what do we think some of the keys are to making sure that Texas can at least get back to the CFP, if not make another deep run as they have these last few years? So that's what we're going to talk about here today. First, we thank our sponsor, our presenting sponsor here, the Man Eye Institute. See life better at the Man Eye Institute. 1-844-WOW-2020. 844-WOW-2020. The Man Eye Institute. See life better. They are our presenting sponsor. Thanks so much to those guys. All right, Cody. So it's not keys to victory because there's no game this weekend. So we said, well, let's talk about the keys to make a CFP run. What is the first thing that you have?
Well, I think a year ago, they made that college football playoff run on the backs of a really good offensive line and a really solid defensive line that saw a bunch of guys go to the NFL draft. And I know one of the biggest question marks coming into the year was the trenches in the interior. And for me, I think number one would be needing to just see a more consistent cohesion between the guard center guard positions in Connor Stroh and Cole Hudson and DJ Campbell. And I joke about DJ Campbell being Mr. 77 because he gets a 77. It feels like you could just say, hey, ask me to guess what his score is on the deep dig every week. And it's probably around 77. And it's like, I would like to see that, come up to be, Mr. 78, Mr. 79 more consistently and prove to us who he is, whilst the guys next to him, stay at least in the 77 category. And when I say 77, that's like obviously above replacement level on Alex's scale in the deep dig and not quite to the 80s, which is, where we saw guys like Hayden Connor consistently get a couple times last year, and DJ Campbell got a couple times last year, and Jake Majors was there a couple times last year. Like, I'm not saying you have to be in the 80s every single week, but just a form of cohesion as you go into SEC play and you have to go against these big defensive lines like Florida's with Caleb Banks. I think about Oklahoma's defensive interior with David Stone and Demonic Williams. And I just think you're going to, and Georgia every year, no matter who's there, there's going to be a defensive tackle or two on that defensive line that's going to wreak havoc. And I guess keeping those defensive tackles out of Arch Manning's feet area and just allowing him to move around that pocket like he can is number one for me. Just protecting, keeping him upright, and keeping a cohesive offensive line, which it seems like they're moving more towards with Connor Stroh being the full-time left guard now and not switching out with NATO.
So is it any different of a key to to a key to the college football? It feels like we're kind of previewing the season and saying like, well, this is what we hope to see for the season, right? Like we've already seen it for a little while. So like,
we've seen it against
any differently now than you did preseason. Like I think it's a tiny bit worrisome that we're saying like if they can do this and if they can do this, and we're still treating it like it's a big toss up. Like we haven't really seen something for the first 4 weeks.
We've seen a little bit. I mean, we've seen the growth of Brandon Baker. We didn't have to bring up Brandon Baker. Remember, we were talking about Baker versus Kojo, and then Kojo goes down with his injury. And now it's like we've seen Baker take that step forward. We've seen DJ Campbell has had a 77, a 79, a 77, a 79. Like, give us more consistency from that direction. We've got Stroh, at least now it seems like he's taken a stranglehold on the left guard position. And now we have the Hudson Robertson thing with Cole Hudson being a little dinged up. Like, I think it's just more of, we've seen the guys actually some more clarity come through on all fronts, but the cohesiveness and growth, I think, is a big thing as far as, yeah, we've seen a little bit for the first 4 weeks, but as far as getting through the next 8 and into a SEC championship and or college football playoff, this group has to take another step.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you know what I think? I think the defense has to take another step. I know that I know that the defense has been great, and I know that the defense, like this team's going to live and die by this defense. I know that coming into the year, we thought this team was going to live and die by Arch Manning, and it's just not. it's going to, and I guess we didn't think, we didn't think that, right? We didn't think that. We'd been to spring ball. We'd seen how this defense was coming along. We'd heard from behind the scenes about how they looked, about how they were going to be the strength of the team. But it feels like the national narrative was like, well, this season goes as Arch goes for the Longhorns. It's not. It's clearly Arch is a giant piece of all this. I'm sure we'll talk about it. But for me, this season goes as the defense goes. And if you wanted the season to be like truly excellent, and you want it to be one of these deep college football playoff runs, if the defense is going to be carrying Texas, there's some. It's not like the defense has been perfect. There are some things that they can improve on. I'd like it if they started using Ant Hill a little bit more, like they did last year. Maybe not using him quite so much in the overhang, in zone coverage, and in covering the slot. He's been fine. He's been productive like that. But I'd like to see them let Ant Hill be Ant Hill possibly a little bit more. I know that in talking with some scouts or talking with a scout about it, they said that they kind of they were kind of into the way that they're using Ant Hill, because they're like, for us, we've already seen the downhill stuff, the sideline to sideline stuff. We've already seen what a prowler he is and what a violent menace he is. It's kind of good for us to see the fact that he's got some, he's just got some mobility, and he's got the ability to turn and run with guys and to get out in space and cover. Like, it's actually been kind of good for his NFL stock, but he hasn't been quite as productive in the old stat sheet. And I think that Colin Simmons probably has another gear that I know Colin Simmons has another gear. He can be 2x as productive as he's been so far this season. With that being said, and I think that those two guys are going to come along. I think that what the defense needs is they need some of these guys that are like unexpected contributors to they need another Jelani McDonald. Like, they need another guy to just come out, and a guy that we knew that was going to be good coming into the season. But you wake up one morning and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, like he might be a first round pick.
You're saying a Jelani McDonald level breakout, not another Jelani McDonald, right?
Yeah, no, another player that does the Jelani McDonald, where you knew he was going to be good, you knew that he was going to be a big part of everything, but then you turn on the tape and you say to yourself, oh man, he's more than just really good. This guy's gone after this season. I'm going to have this in the war room here a little bit later, or I don't know if it's gone up yet, but I sit in my war room and in talking with some people around the team, just asking, like, dude, after this big start that Jelani's gotten off to, do you think he's gonna go pro? And the one person I talked to said, like, yeah, like I think he will. He said that I know he wants to. So I start to think to myself, okay, here's a guy that's playing so well. We went over the PFF coverage grade numbers and stuff like that, and it's like that was earlier in the week. But even if you don't believe cockamamie PFF, you can still believe your eyes, and you can believe the fact that he's been, he's taken the ball away in 3 or 4 games that he's played in. He's made a giant impact in these games. He's 5th on the team in tackles, and he's been awesome in coverage. And you add on to it that he's a state champion triple jumper. He's a 6'6" high jumper. He was an elite basketball star in high school. He's gonna test through the roof. He's gonna get his grade back from the committee as far as his draft, and it's gonna be round 1 or it's gonna be round 2. But I guarantee you, it's not gonna be go back to school, right? I would not have said that that's definitely going to happen coming into the season. I feel like they need to have somebody else like that. Another unexpected contribution. Somebody like Trey Moore comes out of nowhere and like goes UTSA as far as his sacks. Something like this, right? You know, somebody like Jalen Gilbo really starting to turn it on, who hasn't been really that good so far. Or maybe since he hasn't been so good so far, like somebody stepping up, like who knows, like a Kobe Black or Grayson Littleton going over to outside corner and really providing some kind of spark out there, just like completely locking that thing down. I think that a key is going to be a good defense, strength on strength, building strength on strength, saying, okay, the defense is really good, but you know what? It needs to be better. If this team's going to be truly special, this defense needs to be truly special. And if it's going to be truly special, we're going to need not only our guys to get to kind of regress back to the mean as far as Simmons and as far as Hill, as far as their on paper productivity. Simmons much more so than Hill. Hill has still been great. And then for Jelani McDonald to do what he's doing, and then I just think they need somebody. I think they need one more surprise
Like a
if they
Shaw.
get it. Yeah, it's just something like, would it really be that surprising for like Travis Shaw or like Murad Watson, just somebody to start being like, they pop off with one game for like 2 sacks and a bunch of
Yeah.
run stuffs, and all of a sudden you're thinking, all right, so we got a hellraiser here. It's like
We've seen them all play at a good level, but
yeah,
so getting to
yeah.
that next level, I think that'd
And
be
they kind
good.
of switch off from week to week, and with some of these games like this last game, it's like it's really hard to tell because these guys are only playing 30-40% of snaps as it is whenever they only play 48 snaps on defense or something. You only have a 17 snap sample. It's not that long to kind of get things going.
I got one on the offensive side of the ball quick that is interesting because we've heard Steve Sarkisian talk about the importance of the tight end in his offense. And we've obviously seen DeAndre Moore miss a game. Emmett Mosley is yet to play. Wingo, for all intents and purposes, yes, he had a good game last week against Sam Houston, but he hasn't really had a breakout against a power 4 opponent. And I look at the tight end position. I look the last 3 years. So we've had Gunnar Helm, Jatavian Sanders, now Jack Endries. And when I'm looking at the deep dig and I'm seeing like the tight end usage chart as far as where these guys are used, Jack Endries in line right now just 10% of the time. 72% of the time he's at H-back. You go a year ago, Gunnar Helm was 45% in line, 38% at H-back. 2 years ago with Jatavian Sanders, he was 20% in line and 60% H-back. So they're using Endries a lot closer, more like Jatavian Sanders than they were Gunnar Helm. And that looks statistically through the first 4 weeks of the season for what these guys have brought to the table. And you go back to look at Jatavian Sanders that season, he had 200-yard games against Baylor and against Alabama, 12 for 268 and a touchdown the first 4 weeks. Gunnar Helm in the first 4 weeks had that massive game against Michigan, 11 for 197 and a touchdown. He had a quiet game against Monroe, but that's fine. He had a 49-yard, a 42-yard game in there. Jack Endries started out hot, 4 for 50 against Ohio State, caught 2 for 52 and 2 against San Jose State. But the last 2 games combined has 1 catch for 4 yards. He had a 0-burger this last week against Sam Houston State, which is fine because it wasn't really a must-have, must-need.
He wasn't even targeted.
Kind of as you bring up, like on the defensive side of the ball, finding somebody else that can be another Jelani type breakout. Like we know Jack Endries is good, but I would love to see a Jack Endries take that step forward in this offense. And I know it might take a little bit to really fully understand the whole offense. You're transferring in over the offseason. I get it. You weren't in the program a couple years like Jatavian and Gunnar Helm. But I think the tight end is a massive key to a victory on the season, week over week, to a college football playoff, to a SEC championship, to a national championship. Having a tight end like Jack Endries, who we know has the talent and the abilities from his years at California, doing it at Texas this year, and actually, stepping through and maybe being that guy that, if Emmett Mosley misses more time or if Wingo isn't quite ready, which I think he is, but we need another guy. We need another guy to step up, and Jack Endries, I think, can be that guy, and he hasn't quite done it yet to the extent that we've seen from Gunnar Helm and Jatavian Sanders the last 2 years.
What if there's another guy at the tight end position, Cody, that I tell you that by the end of the season, I think is going to step up, and I think he's going to be like the 1B to Jack Endries,
Wait, you're going to go freshman on me?
who has been awesome.
Are you going to go freshman on me?
Yeah, I'm going freshman on you, man. Who's to say that the best tight end on this whole roster isn't Nick Townsend?